how to install and dual boot Ubuntu on top of Windows 10, and we of course have the legacy BIOS over here, which means if I go into my disk management, then we can also check the partition style which we have. So I will go into disk 0, go into properties, volumes. Here it is. Partition style is master boot record, which is the one which goes with your legacy BIOS. So in this video we're going to install Ubuntu on top of Windows 10 on the same hard drive, dual boot it and run it without any issues. So here we are, and what are the prerequisites? Well, for starters, you do need a Windows machine which is running Windows 10. Then if you have a laptop, make sure you connect your device to the charger. You do not want it turning off while you are installing Ubuntu on your device. Then you also need a USB drive. 8 GB is the minimum size which you need, and all the data on the USB drive is going to be wiped out, so make sure you have a backup of any data which you have on your USB drive. Then just in case, to be safe, make sure you have a backup of the data which you have on Windows as well. Next up you need is patience. The process will take some time, so do this when you have enough time and you are not in a hurry. Then of course internet connection on your Windows device, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the process is for those of you who have legacy BIOS. Now, how do you find out whether you have legacy BIOS or not? Well, it is as easy as click on this search icon on the bottom left, and herein if you type system, you will get something called system information. Tap on this, it will open another window which says system summary. Herein if I go into BIOS mode, there it is, you can see BIOS mode is legacy. Now another thing to note is that if your BIOS mode is legacy, then your disk is going to be of the type MBR. How do you find that out? Go to the start button on the bottom left, herein right click and then go into disk management. Once you are in disk management, it will show you all the disks which are installed on your device, and we have only one disk which is C drive, and this is disk 0. Right click on disk 0, go into properties. Then if you go into volume, here it is partition style is MBR or master boot record. So those are the two things which you need to keep in mind before you proceed further with this video, that BIOS type is legacy and your disk is master boot record. Next thing you need to do is you need to download a few things from the internet. So for starters, we are installing Ubuntu, so that is what we need. Now we are going to use 20.04, and before you ask me what is LTS, LTS stands for long-term support, which means we are getting 5 years of free support from Ubuntu. So this is the version which we are using. Tap on download, and then the next thing you need is a utility called Rufus. So this here from Ubuntu we got the image file which we are going to use to create a bootable USB drive. And how do you create the bootable USB drive? You do that using Rufus. And of course another prerequisite is that you need to have at least 25 GB of free space on your hard disk, and that is something which is needed for Ubuntu. Anything more than that is of course something which you need for your data, pictures, videos. So I have downloaded these two files, and we can now go to the downloads folder. So here it is. I have the Rufus application, or Rufus, whatever you want to call it, and I also have the image file for Ubuntu. Do note that the image file for Ubuntu I think is somewhere around 2 GB or something like that. Yep, it is around 3 GB in fact. Next thing we need to do is we are going to connect our USB drive to the computer. There it is, USB drive has been connected. Now this here is a brand new USB drive, so it has no name. Let us go ahead and rename it to something which is easy to relate to. So let us say UBIN, so just Ubuntu installer. Oh well, Windows, rename UBIN. Alright, so it has been renamed to UBIN, just that it is not showing over there. Next up, let us open this application called Rufus, and if it asks you for making changes to your device, say yes. Now it is asking us, do you want to allow Rufus to check online? I say no, don't need any updates right now. And here it is. This here is the application. Now as you can see, it has by default detected my device, which we gave the name UB-IN. So this is why we gave the name, so that you do not wipe out your C drive or any other hard drive which you have. Make sure that this is the name which you gave. Then we need to select the ISO. So tap on select and then navigate to the folder where you have the Ubuntu ISO. For me, it is in downloads, and here it is. Select this and say open. Now you will notice something. By default, it has detected the partition scheme as MBR, which is what we have, and then everything else next is as easy as tapping on start. And again, it is asking us write in ISO mode and select OK. Do note, as I mentioned earlier, all the data in your USB drive is going to be wiped out. On the next screen also, we are going to say yes, and there it is. You're seeing a message. It wants some files from the internet. So again, make sure you do have an active internet connection and say yes. And now we are getting a warning that all the data on this drive will be wiped out. So again, click on OK. So the process has finished, and again this process might take some time based on whether you have USB 2.0, whether you have a SSD on your machine or not, multiple factors. And once it is done, it will give you the status as ready, and now we can tap on close to close this application, and you will notice something. The USB drive has been renamed to Ubuntu space 20.04, and these are the contents of the USB drive. So now that we have created our bootable Ubuntu flash drive, we need to take care of a few other things. First of them is to disable fast startup, because that is going to interfere with us booting using the USB drive. So again, tap on this search here, and herein type fast. You will get something like power and sleep settings, and related you have fast startup. Tap on this. This is going to open the power and sleep menu. On the right hand side, you will see something called additional power options. Tap on this, and once you are in additional power options, select the option which says what does the power button do, or choose what the power buttons do. Tap on this and make sure this is disabled. Turn on fast startup. This needs to be disabled, and once you've disabled it, save the changes, and you might have to reboot your device once after you have disabled fast startup. Next thing we need to do is we need to disable something called Bitlocker. Now I'm pretty sure it won't be enabled for you, but just in case it is, all you need to do again is search here and type in Bitlocker, manage Bitlocker, and as you can see, for me Bitlocker is turned off. So that is another thing which we have taken care of. Next thing we need to do is we need to make space for this Ubuntu on our hard drive. So right click on the Windows icon on the bottom left, and herein we can go into disk management. This is going to open the disk management, and as you can see, I have only one drive installed. So this is our C drive, and it should have some free space. So we're going to right click on this, and we're going to say shrink the volume. Now Windows is going to query whether there is enough space available or not, or how much is available. Do note that Ubuntu needs minimum 25 GB. So I do recommend that you make a partition or shrink at least 30 GB. In my case, I'm going to shrink around say 100 GB. So I'm going to say 100,000. So after the shrinking, I will have somewhere around 143. So I think it's going to be 140 GB available for Windows, and the 100 GB I am giving to Ubuntu. Do note this is in MB. So if you are wanting to do say 30 GB, you can enter over here 30,000, and once you have entered your desired number, all you need to do is tap on shrink. So there it is. You can see C drive is now 140 GB, and you have unallocated 97.66 GB. We did not get the exact 100 because 1 GB I think is 1024 MB. So that is why we did not get the exact 100, but we do have 97.66 GB of unallocated space, which we are going to use for Ubuntu. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to boot using the USB drive. So make sure that the USB drive is connected to your computer, and then you need to turn your computer off, turn it on, and then use a key combination which is going to bring up the boot menu. Now I have here a screenshot of the different combinations or the key which you need to press while your computer is rebooting to bring up the boot menu. In my case, I have a Lenovo machine, so for me it is F12, but the key might be different for your manufacturer, so that is something which you can use Google for. Alright, so here it is. I just connected my USB bootable Ubuntu drive to the laptop, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to restart this, and once I select restart, then I'm going to press the key which is going to boot me into the boot menu. So restart, and once that is done, for me the key combination is F12. So I just have to press the F12 key once I get the black screen. So here it is, black screen, and I'm pressing the F12 key while the USB is connected, and there it is. You can see we are entering the boot menu, and pretty soon we should have a menu because it is booting from the USB drive. And now I am getting the option to boot either from my SSD or the USB drive. Now unfortunately, the label which was formatted or the label which was provided by the Rufus application is not present over here. So instead we have the name of the brand of the USB drive. All you need to do is make sure this is highlighted. Now once it is highlighted, it will be in white, and of course I am using the arrow keys on my keyboard to navigate, and then press the enter key on the keyboard to select. And there it is. It is asking us what do we want to do, and again arrow keys, and make sure Ubuntu is highlighted and then press the enter key. And as you can see right now, it is checking the disks and making sure that there are no errors and nothing like that. And once that is done, we should be at a GUI screen or a graphical user interface. And that's it. The checks were finished. There were no errors, and we do have the Ubuntu loading screen, or the circle is now rotating and loading stuff from the USB drive. And as you can see, we have successfully loaded into Ubuntu. Now I am getting multiple options. So in case you want to try out Ubuntu, you can use the try option and select this. You should be able to try out Ubuntu and see how it is working on your device. You can of course change the language from the left hand side as well. However, we are here to install, so we're going on this option, install Ubuntu. So we're going to select it by using the left click on the mouse, and again, in case you want to change your keyboard layout, you have the option for that as well. I will just say continue over here by selecting continue by using the left button on the keyboard. So here we are now on the wireless connectivity option. So in case you want to connect to a Wi-Fi network, this is the place where you want to do it. Now me personally, I'm just making this video for installation purposes. However, if you are installing Ubuntu for personal use, I do recommend that you connect to the network. For me, I'm just going to say continue over here. Now on the next screen, we are going to get multiple options. So you have normal installation and minimal. We are going to use the normal installation, and in other options you will notice that download updates is grayed out. Why? This is because this requires an active internet connection, which I did not choose. If you do choose to connect to your Wi-Fi, make sure you do check this option. And here is the option for installing third-party software as well. I am going to go ahead and check this option, and then we are going to say continue. Now this is the next screen where you need to choose your installation type, do not choose erase disk, because we want to keep our installation of Windows and we are going to dual boot, and we do not want any data to be lost from Windows either. So we are going to choose something else, and then we are going to say continue, and this will bring us to the next screen. Now I do recommend that you pay complete attention over here, because if you mess up over here you are going to lose all your data. Anyways, for starters, you need to find the free space, and here it is. This is the free space which we had created. Do note it will be somewhere around 100 GB for me, and it might be different for you based on what you had chosen. So make sure this free space is highlighted. Then we are going to tap on the plus sign, and it is going to open up another pop-up window to create a partition. The first partition we are going to create is the root partition. Now, how much space do you want to give it? It all depends on how much space you want to give to your swap area, which we are going to create next. Now, standard thumb of rule is that the swap needs to be 2 times the size of your RAM. I have 8 GB of RAM, so I am going to go with, say, 16 GB of swap area. However, there's also another thought process which says that on modern computers, you do not need to have swap area if your RAM is more than 2 or 4 GB. But I will go with the old school thought process of having a swap area of double the size of my RAM. However, if you do not have enough space, then you can, make your swap area like 1 GB or 2 GB, whatever you are comfortable with. But right now we are creating the root partition. So let me go ahead and say I chose 100 GB, so let me put in over here somewhere around 80,000. So 80,000 over here, and the partition type will be logical. Beginning of this space is checked, ext4 is selected, mount point select the first option, which is your slash, and then we are going to say OK over here. Alright, so as you can see, we now have less free space left, and this here is our ext4 partition which we have just created, which is our root partition where the Ubuntu is going to be installed. Next up, we're going to select the free space one more time, and this I think is around 24 GB right now. So tap on the plus sign one more time, and next up leave everything as it is, and for use as, right, we are going to change this to swap area. Now once you do that, the file type or the mount point will disappear. Everything else I've kept the same. So 24 GB of swap area, logical, beginning of the space, as use as swap area, and select OK. Alright, so everything is now done, right? So you have your root partition or the mount, then you also have your swap area. Next thing you need to choose is where do you want the boot loader. Now I am going with the old school approach of being safe rather than sorry. So instead of messing with the Windows bootloader, I will change this to my ext4. So herein just select this arrow or use the left click for that arrow, and herein we are going to choose the ext4 partition or the device. So here it is. You can see the bootloader is being installed to the ext4 instead of the Windows bootloader, because as I said earlier, I am not interested in messing with the Windows bootloader. Next up, as easy as doing install now, and it is giving me a warning about EFI system partition not found. I am going to ignore that and say continue, because I do know that I do not have EFI setup on my Windows. So let us go ahead and continue. And again we are getting another warning. I'm going to ignore this one as well and say continue, and now it is telling us that these are the changes which are going to be done, and we will say continue here as well. And now you can choose your region. I am going to say India over here, and once that is done I'm going to say continue. And now of course they want us to create a user ID and password, so let me enter those details as well. So I have entered my user ID and my password. They are in sync. Let us say continue once again. And there it is. You can see now the installation has started. And of course, this is going to take some time based on your USB drive, your SSD, your hard disk, your computer speed. Multiple factors are involved over here. So you have to be patient. And of course, make sure that the laptop, if you're using a laptop, is connected to the charger so that it does not turn off while you're installing Ubuntu. So there it is. As you can see, it is giving us the message that installation is now complete and that we need to restart our computer. So all I'm going to do is say restart now. And now it is giving me the message that remove the installation medium and press enter. So at this point, I am going to remove the USB drive which was attached to the computer. And once I have successfully removed the USB drive, I am going to press enter on the keyboard. Now, as you can see, we are booting into Windows. Why? That is because that is what was intended, and as I mentioned earlier, I do not want to mess with the bootloader of Windows. So next step, we are going to log into our Windows, and then we are going to use a software to create the entry and a boot menu for Ubuntu which we have installed. Alright, so here we are on the computer, and now we need a software called EasyBCD which is going to let us create the bootloader entry. And of course, the non-commercial version for private use is free. You might have to register. So let me go ahead and register by entering my name and my email address. So I have entered my name and my email address. Let me select download, and there it is. It is now giving me the option to save the file, and once the file has saved successfully, we can tap on the top right. This here is Firefox, or the other option is you can open your file manager, go into downloads. Here it is, EasyBCD. Double click on this, and next up we do need to install this. So we are going to say next, I agree, and let us say both these options are checked, and then we are going to say next and say install. Alright, so that was pretty quick. Make sure this option is checked and then finish. It is going to open the software or open the application for us. Well, looks like it did not open the application for us. So let us go ahead and go to our desktop, and then we can try to open this application, and of course choose a language. Mine would be English, and of course this is for non-commercial use, and we are going to say okay to continue over here. And here it is. This is the software of EasyBCD, and this is how the main screen looks like. So what do we need to do over here? Go into this option which says add new entry, and herein select the second option which is Linux/BSD, and the type is going to be grub. To the name, you can give it whatever name you want to. We can give it Ubuntu, and forgive me if I type that incorrectly. Let me just type it in one more time. Now once you've given it a name, you can choose over here the specific drive. I will tell you, if you use over here automatically locate and load, it will load absolutely fine. Or if you want to select, this here is the partition of partition 4 Linux as 75 GB. Do not choose the swap one. I will leave it as automatically locate and load, and then you need to tap on this plus option. Once you've tapped on the plus option, you will get this message at the bottom: Ubuntu was added successfully. And now if you go into edit boot menu, herein you will notice you have Windows 10, you also have Ubuntu. And then if you scroll down over here, the countdown, you can set it as whatever seconds you want to. I will leave it as 30. In case you do not want a countdown and you want the user to select, you can also choose wait for user selection. With the countdown, the thing is it is going to by default boot into the default one, which here is Windows 10 after 30 seconds if none of the options are chosen. And then we are going to say save the settings, and we did get a message that bootloader settings were saved successfully. Next up, all you need to do is reboot your computer, and we should have the bootloader menu. So here we are, we have saved the settings for EasyBCD, and next thing I'm going to do is go into start, go into power, and I'm going to say restart my computer. And bam, there it is. You can see we now have the option of choosing our operating system. You can of course use the arrow keys up and down to navigate through the different options and then press the enter key to select. Let us select Ubuntu. And there it is. We do have the Ubuntu boot animation on our laptop, desktop, Windows machine, whatever you want to call it, which means we are booting into Ubuntu. And as you can see that there is my user, and if I select that, I should get the option of entering my password. So I have entered my password. Next up, I am going to press the enter key on the keyboard, and pretty soon we should boot into our Linux distro, which in this case is Ubuntu. There it is. You can see we have successfully booted into Ubuntu. Let us try one more thing. Let us go ahead and try to restart this so that we can see if we can boot back into Windows normally. So I'm going to say power off and go ahead and restart my computer. And once I restart, I should get the menu of bootloader one more time with the option of choosing between Windows or Ubuntu, and this time around we are going to choose Windows. And there it is. We are on the same menu once again. Choose between Windows or Ubuntu. Windows is highlighted and selected. Going to press the enter key. And bam, there it is. You can see we have successfully booted into Windows, and of course you can at this point see my desktop as well. So I do have EasyBCD and the screen recordings which I am doing for this specific video, which means there was no data loss either. So now that we have successfully dual booted Windows 10 and Ubuntu on our machine with legacy BIOS, I'm pretty sure the next question which I'm going to get is, what if I want to get rid of Ubuntu? Very easy. Open EasyBCD one more time, and then you're going to go into edit boot menu. Delete this entry for Ubuntu. So highlight this, select delete. So here it is. I have successfully removed the entry for Linux. Next up, we can go into our disk management. So right click on the Windows icon on the bottom left here, and we're going to go into disk management, and we should see our drives. So this here is our swap. Right click, and we are going to say delete the volume and say yes. So as you can see, it switched over to free space. Similarly, this here is our Ubuntu root partition. We're going to right click and say delete volume, and it says that the selected partition was not created by Windows and other warnings. We are going to say yes over here as well. So now we have 97.66 GB of free space. We are going to right click and say delete this partition and say yes. Now it is showing up as unallocated. So we're going to right click on the C drive here, and we're going to say extend the volume, say next, and next over here, and then finish it, and bam, there it is. You can see we are back at 237.42 GB for our C drive, which means we have successfully removed the Ubuntu which we just installed. And at this point I would suggest reboot your computer, and then feel free to remove EasyBCD in case you want to. And there it is, peeps. That is how you install Ubuntu and dual boot it on top of Windows 10 with a legacy BIOS. And that will do it for this video. Hope my video helped you. Likes, shares and subscribes are appreciated. Feedback and comment more than welcome. See you when I see you.